Well, I remember in 2017, I was in a pub in Donegal with my dad, and I'd been aggressively buying Bitcoin at the start of the year. I remember when we went from 1 up to 2,000, and I was like, holy shit, Dad, look, it's like $2,000. And I was blown away by hitting that price. I had no idea it was going to go to 20,000. I had no idea. It just blew my mind. And that period from about 4 to 20 or 6 to 20 was a very short.
Fast. Yeah.
It was fast.
It's like,
weeks. And I think there were a lot of people who thought something similar was going to happen here. We were going to suddenly go from like 60 to like 150, and it never happened.
Right, the blow off top idea. Yeah.
We just didn't have it.
Right, and if I had to, pin an explanation for that, I would guess it's probably that institutions are involved now. So, so if you're, one of these, one of these funds that buys a bunch of Bitcoin in late 2020, right? Like, so, in the high teens, something like that. So, when Bitcoin's at, 60K, you're sitting on a 3 or 4x in, a few months, right? So like
you've crushed it.
Most institutional money managers are at least going to rebalance that. So that, creates a bunch of sell pressure, when we get to those highs that, in prior bull markets, with the markets being mostly retail driven, or if not, or people trading for their own account, it's like there's much less pressure to like take some off the table and take that more kind of like disciplined approach. Or like people just just get excited and we'll hold it a lot longer versus I think institutional money managers. I think that the flip side of that is I think is also true that institutional people, maybe they're not going to panic as much as retail will, and are used to coming in and buying when there's blood in the streets, as they say. So we'll see.
I also think it's one of those things that's ultimately good for the health of Bitcoin, as much as a Bitcoiner, and I enjoy when the price goes up. And there's a time where I was tweeting every 1,000 up, and which I won't do again. But as much as if Bitcoin had hit 250,000, 300,000, like economically for me, it would be great. I'm a lot more interested in the health of Bitcoin now.
Yeah.
And if it turns out this year we don't have another dump below like 28.5, just imagine we range around here and even for a year, and then we grow again. When you look at this chart,
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be great because the volatility is dropping.
Totally.
And if in the next one it's even less, maybe we just double and come back, and rather than a 60% drop, we have a 45% drop. If the kind of money that's coming in and the algos at play and the trading that's at play means there's less volatility, I think that solves one of our big problems in Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's been a common FUD vector for forever. It's too volatile to be money. It's like, well, okay. I mean, it's also very young and at a much smaller market cap than it would need to be global money. So you should expect it to be volatile, in these growth periods. But yes, I agree that getting volatility should long term, like when you look like very long term, like decade to decade, like volatility should be going down. That's what you would want to see for a global store of value asset.
It becomes a lot more useful as money. It becomes a lot more easier to tell the story. It becomes a lot less scary for people to get involved.
Yeah.
I mean, the dream scenarios is just like a constant slow uptick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 7% a week.
Yeah. Markets will never give you that for long.
They won't give you that for long. But if we get away from 10x up, 80% down.
Right, yeah, totally.
It's like I say, it's fun, but it's, we're getting into a world where Bitcoin is super serious now. Like we have a country where it's legal tender. We have Tesla with it. We have Square with it. We have institutions with it. We have it discussed on a global scale. We're discussed in every government and every parliament in the world. Like this is a serious asset. If it can become more stable, it serves such a better purpose for so many people.
Yeah, I agree. So I think kind of what you're describing there is it's really graduated to being a global macro asset in the last 2 years. And so I think part of what's healthy for Bitcoin is its volatility going down over time, but also it responding as you might expect a fixed supply kind of global hedge asset to respond to macro events. So it's funny, like, people are complaining now that, Bitcoin's down while we have these high CPI prints, right? So that, they're saying it, using that to say that it hasn't been an inflation hedge. But I would argue,
I think I know what you're going to say,
that it front ran that
Yeah.
because it responded phenomenally well to the money printing. Like, if you look at when Bitcoin launched in 2020, like, it was basically the day the Fed announced that they were, going to do QE forever and inject, tons of money, tons of liquidity into the system. And yes, other risk assets, also took off, but Bitcoin took off a lot more and has held a lot more of those gains. Like, kind of the poster child for high growth tech, the ARK ETF. So their flagship ETF, ARK-K, has retraced its COVID gains completely. It's done a full round trip, and here's Bitcoin still sitting up 500% from that time. So I think it did respond very well to how a rational expectation of a fixed supply money might, when the world's biggest central bank says they're going to inject unlimited liquidity into the system.
And Bitcoiners were predicting these inflation numbers. We had Janet Yellen coming out this week saying, have you seen the video?
I don't think I've seen a video.
She's saying, what is it? I was wrong. We got this wrong.
Oh, I saw the tweets on that today. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen so much fucking nonsense around inflation, blaming Russia for gas prices and blaming greedy corporations by Liz Warren. There's all this bullshit.
It was Big Turkey.
It was Big Turkey. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Big Turkey. Whereas I know, as a Bitcoiner, I was watching smarter people than me who've been saying for a couple of years now, inflation is coming. You cannot keep printing money. We just had Peter Doyle in earlier, and he said inflation will usually match the increase in monetary expansion. And the increase
Over
in
time,
monetary expansion. But yeah, over time, it'll catch up with this. So we've had 36% increase. He would expect a 36% over a certain period of time. And there's a lag for it all.
Yeah.
But eventually you'll see a 36% inflation. Bitcoiners were talking about this back when Bitcoin was like at 10,000, 12,000 and buying it because of that.
Yep.
And they were the ones telling everyone else, and no one did. And then the price started to move. And for me, it has been an inflation hedge because I front run it with the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. It comes out. So, I mean, it's this distinction between like money printing and inflation, right? They often go hand in hand. Like, money printing is going to eventually lead to inflation, but like, it's like people can't get their head around the fact that we have these CPI prints now, and Bitcoin isn't performing right now. Well, like, it did all the performance in the prior 2 years, because it got ahead of the money printing when that side of things happened, and now that the Fed has turned around and is withdrawing liquidity, like it makes sense for Bitcoin to be far less performant in that environment, because Bitcoin is a counter to fiat money debasement. So if we're going through a period where remarkably central banks aren't debasing their currency, I wouldn't expect Bitcoin to go nuts during that phase, but I do expect central banks to continue to debase long term. The Fed will have to pivot at some point. Just with debt to GDP where it is globally, there's no way to not print a lot more money over the next 10, 20 years. So as far as Bitcoin's health, I would like to see it perform very well again when the Fed pivots or when they so they'll they probably won't do a 180 pivot, but they'll slow down and blah blah blah, and then when QE starts up again, that's when I'd like to see Bitcoin perform again.